Hey guys, welcome back to Hands On channel. I'm actually taking a break today from working on the new homestead property, and we're just hanging out here in our suburbia house, and I thought, I should probably make a video about just things to come, and that you still need to be prepping, even though in some ways things have settled down, at least with the coronavirus and all that stuff, and the panic and all that. In a lot of places, people are starting to come to their senses about this, and they're realizing that from the start, there's been political objectives by the people pushing for the lockdowns and the masks and all these other things. So a lot of people are waking up, and that's great. And I think in a lot of ways, the leftists have overplayed their hand this time. A lot of people are seeing them for what they really are, and that's all good news. But it doesn't, and even the rooster knows what time it is. It doesn't mean that we're out of the woods, though, and we've still got this election coming up in November. So my prediction, I don't really like to make predictions, but my prediction is, my senses tell me that things are going to get worse after November, no matter what happens. Let's say Trump wins. The left is going to continue pushing the riots. George Soros and his money is going to keep being funneled into, basically terrorist organizations such as BLM and Antifa. And, with some of the actions that we've seen over this last weekend, it was horrific. I saw just last night that there was a IED type explosive device thrown at the federal building in federal courthouse, I believe it was, in Portland. So things are definitely heating up. I saw there was also a shooting incident down in Austin where some guy came out and basically said, I'm not going to say what he said, but he said basically, the other people on the other side were a bunch of wussies, and they weren't going to do anything. And he was walking around with some sort of a semi-automatic firearm. I don't know if it was an AK-47. He claimed it was an AK-47, but I'm not sure it was. I don't know. But he goes out into traffic, supposedly, and according to the video I saw, he goes right out into the traffic and starts brandishing his rifle at people. And apparently, down in Austin, Texas, there's a lot of people that, carry pistols for self-protection. So one of these old boys wasn't having that, and apparently shots were fired, all kinds of stuff happened, and he died. I'm not sure he was the one that fired the initial shot or not, but when you're brandishing a weapon like that, and you got to remember, a lot of these old boys ain't going to put up with that stuff. This ain't, LA or someplace like that where there's a bunch of soy boys riding around in cars and stuff. Whatever. This is the South. You don't get to come here and do that kind of stuff and be immune. Bad things are going to happen. So I think maybe the left is learning a little bit too, that, there's a breaking point. Everyone has it. If you haven't seen the movie Falling Down, it's an older movie with Michael Douglas from, I believe, the late 80s, early 90s. Pretty interesting movie. But I think a lot of Americans are probably at that point right now where they're like, no, I'm not going to take this crap anymore. And so, that being said, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about other things that my wife and I we're working on here at our homestead, and even here in suburbia while we're here. Different things we're doing to make sure that we're defended and to make sure that we're ready for anything that comes our way. So first up, if you haven't seen our other videos about this, I suggest you go check it out. I've done several videos on food prep, and Rooster likes it. I've done videos on food prep, and you can hear the rooster. I mean, obviously get chickens, do stuff like that you wouldn't have normally done probably, because, that grocery store, as you guys have seen, it may not have the things that you need there in times of crisis. Anytime things start getting real hairy, that's when everybody's going to run to the store and buy everything they can because they're getting scared. It's just a natural reaction. So I don't want to hear in the comments, oh, I'm causing panic by telling people to stock up on stuff. That's bullcrap, because anytime there's a tornado or there's a hurricane or there's any kind of, massive natural disaster, the stores are cleaned out. And I'm sure it's the same thing around your area. So it's better to be, even if it's not related to COVID or to the riots and stuff, it's better to be prepared for anything. Just have, at very least, a couple of 2 or 3 months worth of food stocked up for you and your family. And that, that can sound daunting if you don't have anything. And it is a daunting task to build up that kind of a stockpile. It's going to cost you a lot more money right now. That's one of the reasons I was telling you guys, a few months ago now, that it was time to stock up back then, is because I saw the writing on the wall. When it's all about supply and demand. So when all of a sudden there's a massive demand and a lack of supply, then the prices are going to increase. In some cases, exponentially. I don't know if you guys have been following it or not, but beef prices have skyrocketed in my area. And I mean, it's just insane. And there was limiting. You could only buy so many packages of beef and stuff like that because it was just limited supply everywhere. So they had to kind of ration that out. And the way they do that is they jack the prices up on it so that you want to buy less of it. So we're probably going to see some more of that. I'm not sure if it's going to continue to be in beef. Another one I worry about is pork. In addition to the coronavirus, there was a massive H1N1 swine flu outbreak going on in China, down in the same area where a lot of this stuff originates from. And part of that's because they have just atrocious conditions on their farms and stuff. So, if you are feeding your pigs chicken crap, then probably they're going to get sick. That's just basically the gist of it. You've got to keep clean and, healthy environments and be good stewards of the land and the animals. And they're not doing that. So a lot of times these things are originating from down there, and that's why. And then basically, I saw this article like before the coronavirus was even a real big deal here in the United States. I think it was at the beginning of 2020, maybe the end of 2019. I saw this article called "The 10 Plagues Simultaneously Hitting the Earth at the Same Time," basically. It was something like that. And this guy talked about all these different things that were going on in this article, and the swine flu was a big one. And he was talking about how it was going to increase the export of pork out of the United States into China. And therefore, that was going to cause, the pork prices to go up because, again, it's supply and demand. So, and I don't want to hear a bunch of vegan stuff. If you're a vegan, that's fine. I don't care if you're a vegan. If you're a vegan, stock up on vegetables. But I'm not a vegan. I eat meat, and I'm going to continue to eat meat because I love meat, and it's a great source of protein and nourishment for my body. And, I'm not going to change that. Do canned vegetables actually store better than meat? Yes, they do. So, keep that in mind. You're probably going to have to eat less meat. There's no doubt about that. But personally, I eat meat with every meal, and I'm going to try to continue to do that for as long as I can possibly do that. So one of the things the wife and I have been doing, if you haven't been following the channel, is we're basically trying to get into a position where we can sell this place here in the suburbs and move out to a new property we just bought. It's over 50 acres. It's got a pond on it. It's got a lot of different potential. It's got a couple of pastures, so I should be able to run some livestock of some, different varieties of livestock to put meat in my belly and my family's belly. And part of that reason I want to do that is I want natural stuff. I don't want it to be, pumped full of hormones and all kinds of chemicals that, make it last longer on the store shelf. I'm not into that. I'm into keeping it as natural as possible. So all that being said, I realize that not everybody's in that position. Some people are already, entrenched in their current location, whether that be in a city, God save you, or in a suburb where you probably have a better chance, especially if you have like-minded neighbors around. If you're in that situation, or if you're way out in the country and hopefully you've got some good neighbors around you that are like-minded, I suggest you try to network with them and talk to them about, hey, I'm going to be growing, tomatoes and chickens over here. What are you growing? And then work out some sort of a barter system with them because, that's not taxable. They can't tax you for trading tomatoes for, pork or whatever it is, and I'm just giving you random examples here. Grow whatever you want. Maybe you're not a gardener. Maybe you're not a farmer. Maybe you're a welder. Maybe you're a fabricator. Maybe you could go out and work your services in trade with a farmer. You need to network with people that can actually put food in your belly is what I'm trying to say. Because it may not be the grocery stores in the future. I don't know. We've seen some crazy stuff. And again, last weekend, I tried, in my last video, I talked about how I've been disconnecting from the news, and I kind of made a mistake. I came home and I turned the news on, and it just blew my mind. And I want to tell you something. In the past, I've mentioned that, Drudge Report was one of my favorite news sources, and it used to be. But apparently Matt Drudge sold the Drudge Report, and now it's run by the left. So not to say that it's totally terrible, because every once in a while they'll still have a good article on there, but 99% of it is just leftist propaganda, just like you're going to find on MSNBC. So now, thanks to a good friend of mine, I recommend the Gateway Pundit is one of them. That's really good. And you know what? I can't remember them all, but Breitbart is another good source of news. Let's see, who else? World Net Daily is another one. And I'll probably add some text in here. There's a few of them. One of them that really blew my mind, I believe it's called Canadian Free Press or something. And yeah, it's Canadian, but man, they had some hard-hitting stories in there. And again, I'm not saying that I agree 100% with everything these people say. I'm just saying I've seen some really good articles from these sites that are not so biased. Another one that's more of kind of a blog type of a news site is called American Thinker. And man, they knock them out of the park over there on American Thinker. Here on YouTube, Chris Ann Hall is probably the best now. I used to recommend Stefan Molyneux, but they've removed him. I probably would have recommended Alex Jones in the past, but they've removed him. Pretty much a lot of the people that I've liked over the years and become subscribers to, they've basically taken their channels down because, you know, they're pushing the edge, I guess. You know, they're feeling the corners, and YouTube doesn't like it. So we've seen a lot of censorship. We've seen a lot of stuff like that. That's why I can only go so far on these videos. And oftentimes, other than just saying, you know, be prepared to secure your supplies and stuff like that, I can't really go into depth about, you know, how to do that. We have the Second Amendment for now anyways, and so I advise you to exercise your rights, all of your rights, including the Second Amendment. Get good at exercising your rights. Be proficient. You know, don't be untrained, be trained. So, you know, we saw something else. I believe it was the McCloskeys was the name of the couple, McCloskeys or something like that. The couple from, I believe, St. Louis, which that really shocked me. Even though, you know, St. Louis is a liberal city, obviously, it really shocked me just to hear about this kind of news coming out of Missouri. Because usually I think of Missouri as a pretty conservative red state. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but there's still a lot of woods in Missouri. I know that. Anyways, that being said, you know, the McCloskey thing, you know, they defended their property. Those people broke in past their gate. They were on their property, threatening those people's lives, they say. So in my opinion, they had every right to do exactly what they did. Should they have, you know, been a little more disciplined in their, you know, where their barrels were pointing and stuff like that, and keeping their fingers off the trigger until they were ready to, you know, eliminate the threat? Yes, they should have been. But considering that they are not trained soldiers, you know, they look like, you know, older, upper class, you know, grandma and grandpa. They had to defend their place. They were out just having lunch, and all of a sudden someone broke in through their gates and started, you know, talking about tearing their house down and, you know, killing them and stuff was supposedly it. And of course, the video we've seen of that, you guys got to keep in mind, all that video we've seen so far has all been from the perspective of the protesters. Once you break through someone's gate, now you've broken property, now you're a rioter. And when you're threatening people to kill them, you know, that's not cool either. So good job, McCloskeys. Bad job, St. Louis DA, for trying to prosecute these people for defending their homes. Ridiculous. And I think, again, that's another great example of how anybody with a brain is going to look at that and go, wait a minute, no, you can't do this. Were they perfect? Did they do it perfectly? No, but they did a damn good job and a damn fine thing standing up for their own property. Nobody got killed, and the firearms were an effective way to keep, you know, the riot from getting way, way worse, which is what they wanted, what the rioters wanted. So, you know, yes, do we have a right to protest and peaceably assemble? Yes, we do. Peaceably is the key to that word. As soon as you break someone else's property, as soon as you jump on someone's car hood, as soon as you get out and block the road and start rocking someone's car and threatening their lives and making them scared, you are no longer peaceably protesting or peacefully protesting. So you are a rioter at that point. So I think we're going to see a lot more people get run over by cars, because apparently these leftists believe they're invincible or something, or they believe that they're going to be martyred or something by getting run over by a F-150 or a big Dodge. Like we saw that deal in Tulsa a while back when Trump had the rally up there in Tulsa, and all the left was going nuts about that and saying he was a racist and all this stuff. Well, they came out and blocked the interstates. And you saw that. I don't know if you haven't seen the video, you need to go look it up. There was a big Dodge dually with a horse trailer that was running through there, and they tried to block him, started threatening him, and breaking his windows and stuff. So he mashed the gas. I'm assuming he had a Cummins in there, because I saw a little coal roll out, and he mashed the gas. And sure enough, it turns out Dodges do have ram power, and they got right out of the way. It was pretty amazing. So if you or your family find yourself in, for one thing, don't put yourself in that situation. So if you know that there's riots going on in Portland, don't go to Portland. If you know that there's riots going on in Tulsa, don't go to Tulsa. If you know there's riots going on in Austin, stay away from Austin, or at least stay in your suburb house and be ready to defend it. I actually have some family that lives down in Austin, and I worry for them, because Austin is a very, very leftist city, and it has been for a long time. It's like mini California or something out there. And one of the other things that, speaking of that, one of the things that really worries me about this whole deal is we've seen a massive exodus from California. And it's not just California, it's other places. And basically what I'm worried about with that is that, what if it's not like-minded people that are leaving? It's just, a bunch of leftists that are like, oh, okay, we've ruined this place, now let's go on and ruin the next place, because that's exactly what they've done in the past. This whole deal in the past, I remember back in the 90s, all of a sudden, basically gangs started popping up all around the country. And there was a Frontline, I believe it was, actually back when they used to do journalism, there was a show called Frontline, and this show came on and they talked about what was the cause of this. Well, a lot of these people that were living in these inner cities and their kids were getting into gangs and stuff like that, they didn't want that. They were an older generation, and they were like, man, we don't want our kids getting into gangs and stuff, so we got to move to like somewhere else where there's not any gangs. Well, what ended up happening was the kids just brought the gang chapter out to wherever they moved to. So Dallas, or whatever town, whatever city they moved into, they just ended up bringing their gang activity with them, instead of, what the parents had in mind. At least it was claimed on that Frontline show that it was a good thing those parents were trying to do. They were trying to get their kids out of that area. And what ended up happening was they brought their gangbanger activities right all around the country, and it spread out like a plague. And what worries me is that these liberals are going to do the same thing. They're going to finally realize that they've ruined their own cities. And so then they're going to flee those cities, and then they're going to show up in our cities. And then they're going to try to basically, maybe not just try to, maybe they will outvote us. And we've got a terrible, terrible problem here in this country. And it's not just right versus left. It's right versus wrong. And I don't mean that the right is right. I just mean, morals versus immoral. Good versus bad. Good versus evil. And I think a lot of this stuff is being controlled by evil. So guys, I want you to be prepared. I realize not everybody can go out and just buy, 50 plus acres or even 10 acres or whatever right now, because there's a massive rush on property right now. A lot of people are trying to buy that property and get out of those cities. So it may be too late, and you may just have to, make do with what you have. And that's always been kind of one of my mottos, is run what you brung, so you have to be able and willing to live in and protect and defend whatever circumstances you're in right now. So if you're living in an apartment in a city, again, God help you, and try to get out of there. But until you get out of there, focus on surviving. Focus on, what would I do if the rioters came down here and lit my building on fire? What would I do if, I'm driving my car to work tomorrow morning and basically peaceful protesters come out in the street and start beating on my car? What am I going to do? Am I going to, hit the gas and keep on going, or am I going to try to just ease forward and push them out of the way gently, or how is that going to work out? And, you know, state by state, those laws are going to be different. But I believe as soon as you're threatened, in most states in the United States anyways, as soon as you feel threatened, you know, even in your automobile, you have a right to take action and defend yourself and try to get out of that situation. So guys, my best advice is stay out of that situation. And if you live in one of these cesspool cities, man, oh God, you have to get out. You have no choice. But if you're in another normal city that's not so ate up with it, then I advise you to start stocking up on everything. Everything. Water, food, clothing, anything that you might need in the future that may not be there, you should have it and have an abundance of it as much as you can. Now, you know, again, I know it takes a while to do that stuff, so don't go out and run up your credit cards and stuff like that. Try to do it debt-free. That's my advice. But anyways, guys, be prepared for anything. I think November is going to bring on, again, if Trump wins, it's just going to be more and more riots, more and more chaos, more and more of the left trying to get him impeached and stuff like that. If Biden wins, I imagine that he's only there as a placeholder, and whoever his vice president is going to be the one that we're going to need to watch out for. They're going to be the ones actually running things, and they may even kick Joe Biden out and say, "Oh, he's senile, so he can't, you know, perform his duties," and then they'll have to move up whoever he picks as a vice president. So we've got a lot of trickery going on right now from the Democrat Party. And I'm sure the Republicans are doing their own version of it. But, you know, at the end of the day, I look at America first. And whether we stay America or whether we go more communist, it's Trump versus Biden. And I'm going to vote American. And I hope you do too. And I hope you guys are prepared for the worst, because I believe it's coming. We're not out of the woods yet, and they're going to keep on ginning up this stuff about the coronavirus and trying to shut our economy down and our systems down just to gain ground for their lame-ass president, you know, Joe Biden. They're going to try to do anything they can to keep Joe Biden in the dark so nobody hears him talk. And then if he does win by some miracle, there could be another kind of revolution coming. So, or maybe even a separation of the states. I don't know what the future holds, but I better get over here. This rooster's crowing his ass off for some reason. I don't know what's going on, but guys, God bless America. Long live the Constitution. I stand for liberty, and I hope you do too.